Welcome back to Respect the Drive. I'm Tedward, and today my guest is Drew Kenney. And no, your memory has not failed you. You don't know his name. You don't know who that is. But if you're an old follower of my YouTube channel, you saw his Mini Cooper GP blow up on a racetrack right in front of me. Actually, it wasn't that bad. It was a coolant hose. It was fine. But it was a big smoke show, and it was fun. But Drew is a young man who is a driving instructor for Porsche Club of America, PCA, and he also drives his own personal track car, very interesting, an M4 GTS, which is kind of controversial. Not many people run that car. You don't see them very often, and they are fairly rare. But track season is coming to a close pretty soon in the Northeast, so why not take it over to Garage 42 in Woburn, Massachusetts for your car storage needs? Why not clear out your garage to actually use during the winter so you don't have to brush snow off your car every morning you go outside, and let the staff of Garage 42 take care of your baby in a climate-controlled environment. And while having my M5 up there has certainly relieved a lot of stress, there's just a lot of stress in general. I mean, yeah, I'm not necessarily stressed out about my work. I like my work. I like driving around to different places, driving different cars, filming them, and sharing them with you guys. But obviously, the political climate is outrageous. It's frustrating. The world feels like it's literally on fire. And if you're in California or the Pacific Northwest, it is literally on fire. So what I've been doing lately, and I'll admit this is what I've been doing lately to relax at night. I need like junk food TV. That's what I usually do. And for the most part, I go to bed watching Archer, Bob's Burgers, shows like that. Shows that I don't even need to watch. I've seen every episode 10 or 15 times, and you know, it's just comforting. It's the right voices. I don't know if any of you guys do this, but lately my show, this is a little embarrassing. My show has been Step by Step. Do you remember that sitcom from the 90s? It was like a modern day Brady Bunch. Two families come together. Each of them have 3 kids. But instead of this happy family in the 70s, these kids all just butt heads like crazy. And this is such a ridiculous conversation to have, but it's on my mind. I have to talk about it. And it seems kind of meta. It's like they make a lot of references about being on a sitcom. They take a bunch of jabs at Eric Estrada's career, which is always interesting. But anyway, enough about that. I hope you're finding some way to alleviate the stress and just escape your own brain at night and kind of find your happy place before you go to bed. But enough about that. Let's get into this conversation with Drew. And I have to warn you, trigger warning for those of you who are language sensitive. I think I was in a tired, like not very creative mood. So my sentence enhancers came out of the woodwork. So there's a few F-bombs in here. So just a warning. All right, here's Drew. And make sure you stay till the end because his McLaren F1 ride story is fantastic.
But honestly though, Tedward, you got some balls to be doing what you're doing and making out of it. I saw your subscriber count today, and I'm very impressed. And it showed me that all it takes is hard work and what you have, and obviously as well quality and videos and production. And the biggest thing that I think a lot of people don't understand until they actually do it is your consistency day in and day out.
100%. Like it's interesting that you see that, and it's interesting that I see the people closest to me noticing that. And to think that like 2 years ago, if you told me, you know, all you have to do is post a bunch of videos, and I tell you, no, bullshit. I do post a bunch of videos and it doesn't work. And I'm getting
Right.
30 subscribers on a good day. You know, I might earn like $8. Maybe my daily take pays for lunch that day. Like that was a good day to me. Like shit, I got a free lunch because of YouTube. And then what I really had to do was like step back from my content as an emotional thing, like it's my little artistic creation, and be like, no, what do people want to watch that I also want to make? And that's where this has all coincided, because if you have to have both. You have to want to make it and people have to want to watch it. And it's got to be repeatable, like really
Right.
repeatable.
Right.
It's like, I mean, Jesus, what we were doing before, even those track day videos, I mean, I have like 4 or 5 cameras doing interviews with different people. And by the way, I had no idea what the video was even about. I'm like going into it like, let's just film and see what happens. And then you have to sort through a bunch of shit and try to pull something out of a hat. It sucked.
Well, your organization and planning now is probably a lot more like critique per se than previously.
it's so much easier because I basically, every car is just a story. Every car is a video essay. So like, I think anyone who's like, I want to be a YouTuber, should I do it? I'm like, if you want to write 5-paragraph essays like every, 3 times a week, like you did in high school, then yeah, be a YouTuber. But it's just that now I write about cars instead of about like Hamlet or Oedipus Rex.
I'm going to ask you this question because I found it interesting. And I remember I asked this to Evan Shanks when he was in my basement like 4 years ago when he had like 30K subscribers.
Sounds hot.
And and I was like, because you have more than 30,000 now, obviously. But I was like, do you understand like your following is legitimately like a small city? Have you ever thought about like that?
It is weird. Like, I think I got that perspective when I think I started doing like 30 or 40,000 view videos a long time ago. Like once in a while. It wasn't like a consistent thing. It was like, ooh, holy shit, like 20, 30,000 people watch it. And like someone was like, that would fill a stadium, right? And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like it's bizarre. You're performing for like a lot of people. And
it's real deal Holyfield.
And I think the number one thing that people need to realize about YouTube, like automotive YouTubing, you have basically just opened up your car for 100,000 backseat drivers every 2 days, every day. Like this, thankfully I'm at the point where like I've dialed in my driving to the point where it's enough where people don't bitch at me for stupid things. The only thing they bitch at me now for is because I like to wiggle the shifter when I'm in neutral in unfamiliar cars, because I like to make sure I've got like a hard neutral just for safety. Don't want to break things, but people get annoyed with that. People go nuts for that.
Am I allowed to swear on here or no?
You can say whatever you want.
Yeah, the people who like tell you how to drive can literally go fuck themselves.
I agree. And there's 2 types of people. There's the people who tell me how to drive, and for the most part, I'm fine with that because I'm just like the way they've told me how to drive tells me they don't drive well. Like,
right?
It's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah.
And then like, because they'll be like, why do you? What did somebody said something? Oh, somebody yelled at me for depressing the clutch pedal when I started the Mark 1 GTI. And they said, there's no interlock. You don't need to do that. And I'm like, that's just a safety thing. Like, and it's a courtesy to the car and the owner. And just, it's a good practice. You clutch in and there's no reason to put extra drag of the transmission and clutch on the starter motor. There's no reason to do that. But I agree with you. People get mad at you. And then there's the people who, I lost my train of thought. Oh my God, it's been a long day. I drove that turbo BRZ today and it kind of scrambled my brain. The thing was pretty good, actually. I didn't expect it to be. I thought I was going to have to try to lie my way through that one. It was a good car, though.
You drive a manual car like you drive any other manual car, and if people tell you you're driving it not right, they can go drive it and see how they do. Like 5 years ago when I was in college, I had an opportunity to drive a 348 Spider with a tubing. And slow as balls.
But the sound.
The sound was unbelievable. But when I shifted down to do a heel toe because I was so used to it, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I just noticed just that age and that transmission and the flavor that you have to do with your footwork, etc. And just it's hard.
Dude.
You just can't go in there and do it like a normal car. And so when I see you do your thing, like I respect that. And i.e. for the people talking shit, it's like you don't understand those generations of vehicles. It's a totally different game.
Yeah, I always use the Testarossa as an example. Like Testarossas, everyone thinks it's a race car, and like it might have been in the day, but that is a delicate balance. And that gearbox, I love Ferrari gated gearboxes because they're idiot proof. Like you can never accidentally misshift because you're looking at the gate, which is great. But like they also kind of feel like you're just rowing through a bucket of bolts. So like you don't just slam gears in those cars. No. At all. And it's interesting that people think that like, oh, you're shifting slow and like especially a classic car, you don't know if it has any synchros left. You've got to test the waters. You've got to feel it out. And like, I do the upshift blip. I check to make sure things are kosher and happy. I mean, that's not my job to ruin someone's car. It's my job to just drive it and show you what it's like, and that's pretty much it. So
exactly. Not there to beat the shit out of it. It's to give a beautiful experience to the viewership.
What have you been driving lately?
So I daily drive my Mini GP2.
So is that the one that blew up or no?
Yeah,
okay,
that's
the same one. Okay.
So I daily drive my Mini to work every day. It's got 86,000 miles on it now.
That thing is so fucking stiff.
I know. Well, I got a Olin's like coilovers, and there was like one of the first GPs like in the world to have Olin's actually on it,
That's some
which was
fancy.
kind of cool.
Yeah, that's fancy.
And Vorschlag camber plates on it too. And I had some issues with it recently, and I called Olin's, and they were like, "Your setup should only last like 20,000 miles."
That's a thing?
Yeah,
Oh my
and I
God.
put like 40K on that setup,
Yeah.
so it's kind of beat, but it does fine. And then I got my M4 GTS that just I do the track stuff with,
All right, I want to
which
talk
is
about this car because when this car came out, this car was really weird because it was like announced and everyone was like, "Oh my God, here's the king." And
yeah.
then it came out and people didn't know what to make of it. You'd had people who were like, "Wow, this thing handles really well." You had other people who were like, "This is so stiff and why does it have this stupid water tank in the trunk?" Like, can you like having owned it and driven it for a while now, like take me through was there like first of all why did you buy it? Like this would have been a car that I wouldn't have bought unless I was just looking for something controversial to have because it was controversial. And then how has your opinion of it changed? Like does it feel heavy to you? Like you're used to a mini GP, you're used to like 911 GT3s and stuff. This is a very different animal.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. So, like, I'll be blunt with you. So, my dad gave me a price range for a vehicle he was going to buy me, which is fortunate on my part.
So much
And
respect for saying that because everybody else is like, well, I had this budget. And you're like, fuck it. I'm just like leading with my dad said. And it's like, yeah, can't really argue with that.
well, it's like it's pretty simple. It's like if you live life, if you're out of college and you work and you do the math, it kind of makes like, can he actually afford it or can he not? So, my dad gave me a budget for a new track car to get because my Mini was just run down and my speed and whatnot, how long I've been doing this, I needed something faster.
Yeah, you are a quick driver. Like I genuinely enjoy sitting passenger with you and having you as a passenger and I always find new lines when I'm with you. I like what you're creative on the track and you're consistent and I like it.
Thanks, Ted. And no, thank you. So yeah, I was looking and I was like, all right, what can I get? I could get a Camaro ZL1 1LE, like brand new. That'd be pretty dope
Yeah.
because I really like the Z28, especially like the last of the 427. I think that would be a special car, value wise, and another time we can talk. But then I was like, all right, then I also could get a Cayman GT4 as well for the same price, 2016s. But since I do the Porsche Club stuff all the time, it's like not to sound snotty, but I drive those cars a lot
Yeah. I mean,
just because they're there.
and like look, I haven't driven one on a racetrack, but I've driven them. I've got some seat time in these GT4s and while they are fantastic cars, they're really like clinical. They're almost like too good to the point where you're just like as long as I don't know. They are really good cars. They are.
No, they're beautiful. I got the most experience I have is with one that has seats, half cage, harnesses, and on slicks. And I've got a lot of time on GT4 in that setup, and it's beautiful. But I just want something different. And I saw the GT4, I saw the GTSs. They depreciate half their value, which was pretty dope. And I called on every single one in America. There was like 14 for sale,
Yeah.
and I had a strict price. And I said, "This is what I'll give you, or this is what I'll give you like this week." And out of those 14, one of them said, "Okay,"
No shit.
and that's how it happened. And ever since then, it's been a beautiful experience. But it's what I liked about it was the aero had the full aero, so it's got the wing and the front diffuser that you can pull out and make into a track setup. But I like the number as well. There was only 300 in the United States, 700 worldwide. It's really different in a sense too. And when you read about it, BMW printed a 25-page book just about the GTS when it came out, about all the differences and nuances comparative to the M4 competition, the M4 CS, and then also the heritage of the lightweight M models for
Right, right.
M3. So I was like, oh, this thing's kind of cool. And my first car being an E46 M3, I was had this kind of like, my heartstrings per se kind of went towards that vehicle. So budget and just what it did and on track, I was like, let's do it. And I
Had
did it.
you had you driven one before you bought one?
No, every car I bought, I've never driven
Yeah,
before buying it.
I've pretty much been there too. Yeah, not everyone, but I bought my Porsche without driving it. I got a ride like 20 feet, and I was like, I guess it runs.
So like for what I do is like, so for the track stuff, like this is like my track car. So it really only goes on track. It's set up for that. You watch enough videos, and if you drive and you understand dynamics and you watch people who are quick driving it, you get a sense you're like, all right, this thing hauls ass.
Right.
So you don't need to like drive it to be like, oh, do I like it or not? Because you already know it's gonna be great. And then like my first day with it at the track was at Lime Rock, and it was just absolutely phenomenal.
What is it competitive with? Like if you were to like put it up against a GT4, a GT3, and let's just say like an E92 M3. I mean, it would walk the fuck away from that.
Yeah, it's on track. It's 991.1 GT3.
Okay.
GT3 RS.
Okay.
That's what it's comparative to.
That's pretty wild.
Exactly the same.
How does it deal with heat management? Because you've got turbo, you've got twin. Geez, God, it's been a long day. It's a twin turbo S55, right?
Yeah. So see, I'm all about the dynamics, not the motor shit. So I barely even know that. But yeah, it's a inline six twin turbo, 500 horse, 450 foot-pounds, and yeah, it's dynamically just like great. What was your question exactly?
Well, like, how does it deal with heat? Because I feel like
Oh,
that's
heat.
Because I look
Yeah,
at like a
it's fine.
Really,
It's fine.
really.
Yeah, and yeah, it's fine, and it does like a lot. So on a track weekend, it'll do around 200 to 400 miles on a track weekend,
Jeez.
and that's full red line through everything, and it gets a little hot, but it's not crazy.
Have you done the what is it, the crank hub
Nope.
thing? Oh
No, haven't done that. I know. I follow the F80 like forums and the Facebook page. It seems like every day someone blows their crank hub, and that company out in California, SSR, has like a warehouse just full of F80s just doing crank hubs all day.
Oh, they literally they do crank hubs and E90 and S65 E92 M3 engines for rod bearings. Like literally, it's like whole fucking bread and butter, man.
Yeah, they seem like actually a pretty solid company, except for their roll cages. I think those are pretty weak, but whatever. And yeah, so I haven't done the crank hub yet, but the only thing I've done to it is seats. So I put a Cobra, or my dad put in Cobra racing seats, and then Stroth harnesses with the half cage in it, and then as well I have the suspension from the M4 GT4 race car.
What?
Yeah.
So those are like remote reservoir deals with, or what? What is? Do you know what it
No,
is?
specifically, it still has the KWV3s.
Okay.
But the control arms and all those underlinings, and within that, not the coilovers, but the control arms and all that is all M4 GT4. And so now Turner, when I took it there, Turner did the full track setup for my the stance of it per se, from the camber, toe, etc.
Got it.
Is matched up to their GT4 cars.
What are you running? Can you run the stock wheels? Like, are those a reasonable wheel to run? Are they too big? They look huge.
I run those. I run those wheels for the rain, and then I have a set of 19-inch Apex wheels, 265 squared on Hoosier R7 slicks.
Okay, that's making more sense.
I run for the track.
Yeah. Okay.
And that does absolutely fine. It's honestly, you set it up like that, thing's a monster. It doesn't spin wheels. It grips first gear, second gear, you floor, it just goes.
Well, on Hoosiers, it fucking better.
Yeah. And the reason I did that too is the tire wear. The thing would go through tires in 2 days with the regular setup. And so after doing that, tires lasted the whole season.
That's insane.
Yeah. So it was well worth it. And that's what Turner told me. They did a great job. They said, hey, if we'll do this, your tire wear will dramatically increase. And I did it, and it's been absolutely perfect.
That's pretty good. So are you running mostly with PCA now?
Yeah, I do mostly just a PCA just because I instruct with them.
Yeah, tell me about that. How did you get into that?
Well, I've been doing track days. I'm 27, so I'm doing almost 10 years now. So my dad has been doing them for like ever. He started out doing in the 3.0 CS in like the 80s.
Like the BMW, like the okay.
Yeah. E9.
I had to think about. I had to go way back in my brain for that. Sorry, I'm like picturing his 997 GT3, and then you said that, and I had to go to a different chapter. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. So he did that with the 3.0 CS, and then a E28 535 AS, and E34 M5, and then so on, so on. You throw the M3, etc. So he's been doing it all since. Did some racing, and so I was just around that my whole life.
Yeah.
And so when I turned 18, and that's when you're allowed to go on track legally, it was like, let's do it. And so I just did it, continued, rose up through the ranks, and I said, like, I just want to like teach people.
Yeah.
And so then I qualified to be an instructor and have done through PCA just because dad has Porsches. So I've been a part of that for a while. And I just like the group. I like the type of people. They have a really well-run program as well, from the instructor candidate to how they teach their students. So it's been a beautiful experience.
So what do you notice most, like, from entry people? Oh God, I could think of nothing more terrifying than being an instructor with somebody in a 911 who's never driven on track before.
Like tomorrow I'm instructing, and I'm instructing a lady probably in her late 30s, early 40s in a 991.1 GT3, and she's never been the driver.
See, like, it's funny. I'd feel more comfortable in that. Like, if like, imagine I came to you in my air-cooled 911 and said, Drew, I don't know what to do. I've only driven this to the store. Like, if I were you, I'd be like, I'm not getting in this car. You're like, out of your fucking mind. You're gonna kill me.
What you have to do is be pretty verbal about, this is what we're going to do, and you're going to pay attention to me, because if you do, you're actually going to get better.
Right.
And so you kind of got to sit them down and just put them in their place. And sometimes they don't like it at first, but once they're in the car and they hear the instructor's direction and actually how to do it, they actually get into a rhythm and become comfortable where you're not actually scared per se. But a lot of times you have to like sit them down and say, hey, you're going too fast here, or you're braking way too hard. You got to be safer in these areas, and they pay attention, because it's not just them crashing their car, but it's my life as well, and their life too.
Well, and the worst thing, like, this always breaks my heart when you see those stories. It's always those like Vegas supercar programs where like an instructor dies because, you know, some hot shoe plows him into a barrier, and, you know, like, either they both die or the instructor dies because they put him sideways into a barrier in a way that no reasonable driver would ever do, but a complete novice who just really didn't know how to react to a car's, output and didn't know how to put an input in to recover from it, totally botched it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like that, sometimes you get some scares per se, but one of the things I like to do is scare them in their own car, but not me driving, but with them.
Right.
As in, like, all right, take this corner, and I'll understand the front end grip. It's all about the front end grip, actually.
Well, yeah, it's so
Porsche. So like how much the front end can grip, and they'll go into a corner and they'll go out of it and they'll be like, holy shit, I don't want to do that again. I'm like, good.
Yeah,
good.
Don't do that.
Because that's what your car can do, and you're not there yet. So let's just keep it at a level that you feel safe at.
Have you had close calls? Like, have you been in any accidents?
No accidents. I've been in some people going wide over apexes in the runoff.
Yeah.
The scariest ride I've been in recently was with a guy in an F90 comp M5, and he brought like a set of track tires.
Oh boy.
And he was in the most advanced group, but he was an absolute wild man, and he was just using every curb possible at track out, even going into the grass a little bit. You could see the dirt flying off. He would brake at the latest point where the full ABS would kick in. Oh, and you're going out with your hands like,
yeah. And if you as an instructor who's been in a lot of cars are looking at a braking zone and feeling like, I'm not really comfortable there, like, that's a bad thing.
Yeah. So that's happened actually a lot, but you just got to feel comfortable. But at the same time, these cars, the ones I'm specifically in, they brake so well, is that unless you brake like way too late, then you really will never get in trouble.
Yeah.
You'll just miss an apex.
Well, that's good. I mean, where do you see people plateau the most? Because I think a lot of folks, like, a lot of folks have done a track day or 2 or 3 or 10, and they get used to driving, they get used to what they're doing, and then, there's going to be a point where they're like, yeah, this is where I'm at. Like, I'm not shaving. It's funny. It's like I can go out to Palmer. And if in 4 sessions, I go out for my shakedown run, and I'm like, okay, I can pull a few seconds off of that. I can pull 5 to 10 seconds off of that. And then I'm running in like the actual competitive times with cars in my class, by the second, third, fourth, outing. But at the same time, like, I know there's time to pull. I know there's always going to be another second or 2 or 3. Like, where do you see people plateau, and how do you kind of manage that?
People usually plateau through pace based on based on their braking and their accelerating. The way that you get them quicker is by understanding smoothness within turn-in. That's a big thing. And then also getting them actually to get them the throttle earlier and actually have them brake a little later. So they brake later into a corner than they're used to at their speed. But right when they brake and get off, they get right back on the throttle. And a lot of people who plateau don't do that. But if you do that, you'll actually balance the car better and have better exit speed. And through that, actually, your times will increase. And then as well, actually turn as an understanding your front and understanding that you can actually turn a little earlier. And that feeling understeer might not be scary or might not be slower. It actually might make it hook better.
Right.
So it's like small things like that. So a lot of it is actually smoothness. Smoothness is the biggest thing when people plateau, is getting smoother with your applications from steering, throttle, and braking.
Yeah. Well,
that's what I see personally.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just don't understand what like novices just don't even understand what their cars are capable of, because they've driven their car on the street, they've taken an on-ramp at a speed that they thought was alarmingly quick. And then they find out that they actually have only been using about 50% of their car. And I think that's the most beautiful thing in the world. I think when you show somebody what their car can do that they had no idea, that is the most beautiful thing you can do with a car person, is show them that, like, you have no idea how fucking fast your car is. I love that.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's it's always exciting, especially with somebody's like in green, or which is like a beginner group for Porsche, is you usually don't want to do it with them, but sometimes they understand, okay, I'm not that fast. Like, can you show me what I can do? And you take them out at like 7/10, and they're just like, holy shit, like you just did that. And even like the bigger groups, like for example, like at the Glen, like about a month ago, I got the whale on your generation 911 that was set up for the track.
Yeah.
And he's like a fast driver, but he's like take it out. And never driven it before. And I just went like 9/10, and it was beautiful. Coming to a corner, right when you brake light because it weighs nothing.
I know.
And all you do, even before you turn in, you just get on the throttle and then you turn in, and it just grips. And all you do is you throttle steer just with the throttle.
Right.
So there's no steering input.
No, you just tip it in, and you basically steer straight. You basically, all you're doing is the bare minimum to make sure it's kind of pointing somewhere, and you steer the car on your foot.
Yeah, exactly. And like we're in like the fastest group, and I outran like a 991.2 GT3.
Yeah.
Just hauling ass. It was fun. But like that shit, but like a guy who likes it and is fast and lets you go take out his car and says like, what can it really do, in a sense, at my speed. I'm not no pro driver by any means, but like, yeah, people really enjoy that usually, and they get to experience like, holy shit. So yeah, no, it's always fun. It's a good time as always. And it's just, it's a hell of a time. Anyone who's into cars should go do it. It's like, I tell people, it's like, all right, like you throw the football all the time outside, but you don't watch football.
Right.
Like what? Like, all right, you go drive your car. Like you haven't done like a track day. Like why? Even though it might be expensive, but theoretically there's so many clubs out there like mass tuning that actually make it affordable.
Dude, I'm so about this like trend lately, because there's a few clubs, like, it's hard to even call them clubs. They're not even clubs because you don't like belong to them. You just go. And it's amazing. It's totally democratized track experiences, because you go out and you can, I think the thing that stops a lot of people is because they are afraid to go solo. They're afraid to be like, oh, I'm going to go by myself to this track day. I don't know anybody. I don't know what it's going to be like. Am I going to be a complete asshole? Like, am I going to, for me, it was always an etiquette thing. Like being terrified to offend somebody on a racetrack by like not blending correctly or something like that kept me off the track for a long time.
Right.
And then once I went with my friends, I don't think you were there the first day. You might have been, but I remember feeling like, why haven't I been doing this? This is what I like. I'm okay at it. Like I'm actually learning and I'm getting better, and I can like watch myself grow, and it's incredible. It's like the only thing I've ever done that I'm like, oh fuck, I'm getting way better at this, like quickly, and it felt great.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's Yeah, it's if you don't know anyone, you go there. The crowd is so nice too, and the people are so welcoming. It's such a welcoming crowd as always, and you'll always go there with people who are just starting out too. And if you continue to do it, you'll grow with those people, and you'll advance and run groups with them. And next thing you know, you have a friend group that you go hang out with. And next thing you know, it's a summer hobby that you hang out with these people, and you do it locally, or then you go travel somewhere where you have to get a hotel, and it becomes a weekend with these people as
Right.
well, and you start a whole new friend group that you never had previously while enjoying this hobby that you didn't think that maybe you would know anyone with to enjoy. So if you're doing like it's all dependent, but I always say like if you're doing track days and you want to do it just to have fun and you're not racing, go buy whatever you want that you want to have fun with and actually enjoy.
Well, what do you recommend for like a normal person who has a normal budget? Let's say it's 40,000 or less. Like, you can buy used cars too. But let's say you're like, okay, I'm not rich. Maybe I'm 25 and I can afford 20 grand, 25 grand. Maybe I'm like working, but I still have to pay for my mortgage. So like, okay, a $40,000 car is fine. And it's not a dedicated track toy. It's something that like, from like, think about me, right? Like I have an E92 M3. I do, aside from this year, maybe like 4 to 6 events a year. And I just want something that I know I can pad slap, throw some rubber on it and call it a day. Like, what are the cars now that you see a lot of folks using that are effective tools that aren't just sitting there with their hood open like, oh, shit, I wrecked it?
Well, not to get too deep into this, I'll say one that disappoints me is the Civic Type R. Just the fact of those overheating issues for something that's built for the track. But that's it. Done. We're done on that subject.
Yeah, we've
number
beaten
2.
that horse.
But no, theoretically, if you want to just have something that's fun that you can take to the track and have fun with, M235i with a 6-speed with a limited slip.
You think so?
It's going to be a fun car. You got the limited slip. The motor actually, I think, would be fine in it. Like that would be it's a great daily as well. And if you just want to go do like a couple sessions in, that'd be fine. I per se, that's a personal thing as well. Like what Andrew Wen has, is he has that Cayman.
Yeah.
So your 07, 08 Cayman S for like 25, 30 Gs. That's going to be bulletproof.
So don't ask me how I know this, but the M235i does not have the oiling system of an M2, and it cannot handle sustained Gs. So just anyone out there driving M235is, make sure you put a baffle in it, and be aware that if you go with real sticky rubber and you're on a track with long sustained corners that you're going to be close to or at a G, you are going to starve that engine. You are going to fuck things up.
All right, didn't know that. Okay, so explain
isn't this crazy though? Like that's like the level of like it's not just about the car's performance that you see in the numbers. Like you have to really think about the we've seen it happen with LS swapped like 996 GT3s where it's like, oh shit, oil starvation. Like you got to go bananas with scavenge pumps and a dry sump system. To do this. It's like,
I know.
You can lay it all down and you can have the motor that has the numbers and all the things, but it's like, but what happens in a corner for 15 seconends,
I know, right? Like the big thing when I buy my cars or when my dad buys my cars for me for the track, I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to bullshit.
I love it. I just love it. It's funny.
Is I make sure is that the car I'm going to use for the track, I don't want to have to do it. The M4 was just the problem. I didn't know it had, so I had to do it. But the thing I like is buying a car like with the Mini. I want to buy something that I don't do anything to and just take to the track.
Exactly.
0 modifications.
Exactly.
0, except for like tires and pads.
What about weight? Because like for me, that's the thing that steers me away from say like a Camaro. Like a Camaro's a heavy car. I already have a heavy car.
I was gonna say like a Camaro has like a great car to have as a daily and then rip on the track.
It is.
Beat the hell out of that.
SS1LE, like what a deal. And like you can scam those dealers out of those so like with crazy discounts. Discounts. Oh my God.
Unreal.
Bananas.
Unreal.
You sacrifice fucking visibility, but like dude, I will play cat and mouse all day with a Camaro on a racetrack. It is so much fun. They sound so good. You're gonna want to give them a point buy. It's great.
I know. Weight is like is a big thing, but if you're using it as like your like other car to your street car, it's like most likely your daily is going to be kind of heavy.
Agreed.
You're not going to have a lightweight car that you're dailying unless it's just like you live by yourself. You know what I mean? Or like whatever. Or you have a second car.
Well, you bring up a good point because when you bring your daily, your 34, your 3,600 pound car to the track, you like if you kind of fall in love with the driving and you fall in love with the dynamics and you start getting angry at your car because it's pushing, because it's heavy, and like, oh, all this shit. It's so funny how you can, in a day, in like an hour, go from I love this car, it's so fast, it's the greatest car I've ever driven on the street, to this heavy pig is a nightmare and I want to buy an Ariel Atom or a Caterham 7, and I don't care what I have to do in my life. I will daily that thing if I have to, because I want a light car. And it's so wild how then you go back to the street and you drive like a tin can on the street and you're like, oh my God, I need an M3. I need I need a safe car.
I know. But to be the devil advocate as well, like if you have a heavy car or it's heavier and you're mad at the weight, learn how to drive around the weight.
It's true. It is
learn
true.
how to drive. There's definite ways on how to drive a heavy car fast. It's not impossible by any means, and you can be successful at it. You just have to understand the dynamics and drive it how it's purposely built to be driven.
It all goes back to being smooth. You're right. Like the heavier the car, I feel like the smoother you end up being. Like, because if you thrash a heavy car, if I try to follow a GT86 with a supercharger into a corner, and I take his line, my tail is already gone. Like I can't do that whiplash craziness. Like, you've got to coerce the heavy car into the corner. You've got to let the weight do the work for you, and you've got to like convince it to go.
Like when I get, like, for example, my dad's got a 997.2 GT3 RS that I tracks. Wild man for doing that.
Yeah, that car actually scared. Like that car legitimately scares me, and it's not the car, it's the tires. When I see the slicks on that thing, I'm like, you're fucking crazy.
Yeah, I don't know why he does that. Because
that car's actually dangerous. Like that car is like legitimately. I look at that car, I'm like, that's fucking dangerous. That car is dangerous.
It is dangerous, but actually, when you drive it and you start hauling ass in it, and then you're beating the fuck out of it, and you start getting into the traction control at like every corner exit.
Yeah,
it's actually like wicked controllable. And it's not even that bad. It's actually not even that scary. I think it's actually a wicked fun.
It might just be like I've intimidated myself with other cars where I look at something and I go, oh, I can't drive that.
On the street, I agree. On the street, it's scarier to drive fast on a street than on a racetrack.
Yeah, I believe
100%.
I believe
and most people only drive stuff on the street as well.
997s are kind of scary on the street because the front end is so light. Oh my God.
It feels like it's going to, like my dad's car, it just feels like it's going to lift off the ground. Every single time you give it the beans, it just like feels it's going to do a wheelie.
It's crazy. It's not quite like, so the way I described 997 turbos is like, I love watching in-car video of a tuned 997 turbo, like doing pulls. Cause like you just watch the steering wheel go from straight to this crazy sawing motion. Cause it's like the wheels are barely on the ground anymore.
The best car I've ever driven in my life, actually probably the top 3 I've ever driven in my life, is a tuned, like lightly tuned, like chip tuned 997.1 cab 6-speed.
A 997 cab 6-speed, like just a Carrera?
No, turbo.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. You like that?
Top down.
Why?
6-speed. Because I know it's weird, but it's got the Porsche dynamics. The turbos, they haul ass.
They do, yeah.
And you got the top down, which I like convertibles.
I do like convertibles too. I think I have such a thing against, not a thing against. I think I just have a stigma against 911 turbos. Like I love a good turbo. I've had friends who have like tossed me keys to crazy turbos. I'm like, this is nuts. But like, would I go buy one? No. I'd sooner buy a base Carrera than a turbo.
Yeah, for example, like my dream Porsche, like that, like affordability wise, I could actually probably buy one day, would be a 997.2 cream white. You know the cream?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, cream white Turbo S. Done.
I didn't know
every day.
Like that. It's funny because that just taught me more about you than I think I've learned about you in a very long time. That's like fuck your horoscope. You want a cream 997 turbo. I just learned a lot about you.
I think that color is stunning, but also I love the 997 turbos. I think that generation 997 turbos are way more special because of the Metzger, especially the Turbo S2, because the last generation of Turbo S, and a lot of people don't know this, is where they built them like 4 years after the turbo.
Okay.
Where it was special to have a Turbo S, similar to a 996 Turbo S.
Right.
And then with the 991, they just made them together.
Right.
Because we could just sell them. So during the time when the Turbo S came out, it was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that car is a little special, I think, in that aspect, that it was actually made at a later date while they were still making the turbos, and it was like its own model.
Outside of auto, you know, high performance driving, I won't say racing because we're going to be honest here. Outside of like high performance driving, what do you like? What makes you tick? Is that what you wake up thinking about, or is it just a thing you do some weekends? Like, I think a lot of us in the beginning, I mean, I can't really speak for myself here, but like, it's like, oh my God, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. And then it slowly fades because either you're not racing wheel to wheel and it's like, okay, I'm just going to these things, or you're working. You're like going to a track day and you're working. You're like, you're an instructor. So, is that how you identify or like classify yourself as like, oh, I'm a driver, or like there are other things in your life that you're like, oh, this is kind of actually more important to me, or like where does it stack up? Who are you, Drew?
It is a hobby. And all this is a hobby. I don't think about it every day. I think about it probably 2 weeks before it's about to happen.
Yeah.
But I get prepared for it, and I get excited to do it. And yeah, it's a job for me there because I'm instructing, I'm running around, I'm doing a lot of things other than just driving. I work a sweat every single track day because I'm doing a lot. But it's a hobby, and I think that's how you should approach it too, because life's so short. Where if you only focus on one thing, you're only in the one thing, then you'll just, become bored of it per se. So I keep it special. I keep it special.
That's good. So who are you outside of driving? Because I think a lot of times we just talk about that and it's like, okay, but like what do you do? Obviously there's like money invested in cars. It's a family hobby. It's a family thing. It's like it's what you guys like to do. It's like, some people go on like, oh, we go to the Bahamas every Christmas and all that. Some people drive fucking GT3s to the track 12, 15 times a year. Like,
yeah, I work for a very small startup, and there's only like 7 of us trying to get it going, which is like really exciting. So a lot of my focus day to day is on that. I go down to the Cape almost every weekend with my girlfriend because her parents live down there, and we enjoy the beach. I'm a part of a boat club called Freedom Boat Club. I pay a monthly fee, and I go take boats out, and I don't have to worry about shit. And I go like take my friends out. We enjoy the water.
Yeah, no, owning a boat sounds like literally hell.
And I don't own a boat, so it's nice.
No, if I had to, I would much sooner own like a fleet of 1960s like economy sports British cars with Lucas Electrics than a single boat. That would it sounds like the worst thing in the world.
No, Tom, my life's pretty dope. I hustle on work days during the week, or on weekends. I'm either tracking, watching motorsport, or taking like a boat out. So like life could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
So it's pretty enjoyable.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, those like my things, and it's like actually really nice too because I do the driving stuff and I got the dynamics of driving. So when I get in a boat too, like I can fling that puppy around.
Boats fucking scare me because like waves are big. Like it's I don't know. I'm not a water person. It's funny because I am so risk averse, like, which is bizarre because you put me on a racetrack and I might be timid going into it. By the second session, I'm like riding the wall, balancing the car, and I'm just so happy.
Yeah.
And it's wild because you can watch me go from, oh, I don't know if I can do that, to like just ripping. And it's my favorite thing, like, because I see a side of myself that I forget exists when I'm on a racetrack.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. When you get onto a racetrack, all of a sudden your balls get 3 times as big. Fear goes out the window completely. And all you want to do is go fast. That's all you want to do.
It's funny because it's like I don't even think about it as my balls. I just think about it as like I have. It's like I've got enough brains to do it. Like I have enough muscle memory to learn more. I have enough humility to know I need to learn more, but I have enough skill to enjoy myself and push myself. And I think that's just something that I don't get anywhere else. Like I don't have any other thing in my life that I can go in feeling like this is such a bad idea. You might crash your car. You might be terrified. By the end of the day, you are just like an animal. in like your most primal state, enjoying life. Like that, I feel like is just what it's all about.
Yeah, and it's like crazy. Like I was thinking about one. So like Palmer, the track.
Oh yeah.
Have you done the backwards yet?
I've only done backwards.
All
I've
right, so
never done the conventional way.
all right, so when you're going up the hill to the right hand or down the front straight, in that section now, I was always staying 75, 80% throttle. And this is back to our fear talk. I started to say pinned into it one time, and the whole thing got loose.
In an M4, I'm shocked. I'm sorry.
The whole thing got loose, like probably 25% oversteer correction while pinned.
Yeah, just not a good feeling.
No, but I didn't get scared because I was on the track. But if I was on the street,
oh, you would have shit yourself.
Shit myself. But that thing you're talking about, though, fear, though, as in there's none when you're on there.
You execute.
It's crazy. Here, just keeping it to track stuff. If you had all the money in the world, hypothetical, we love these, and you were doing just for track stuff, etc., what would you buy?
All the money in the world?
Not all the money in the world, but let's keep it under. Let's keep it under 2.
I was gonna go McLaren F1 because I was gonna be like, and not because it's the best car in the world, which it is great. It is likely the best car in the world, but it's because it's a naturally aspirated V12. I think it's just so back to basics. It's just a stiff, rigid, visceral manual car. All right, under 2 million. Ooh, so it needs to basically follow all those rules. But I think. I know a lot of people are going to think my answer is going to be a P car of sorts. It's not. I think I would just go pretty basic. I would do something like a really hotted up Caterham 7 or something, like something really simple and driver focused that like can be outrageously fast. But I'm all about this lightweight shit. Like you give me a light car. If you give me, oh my God, this is why I've been like drooling over these K cars. Cause like how often do you get to drive a sub 2,000 pound car with like 100 horsepower? It's the fucking best.
I've never driven a sub 2,000 pound car.
Oh my God. It's my favorite thing in the world. Like,
really?
No, you've driven a Lotus Elise, right? That's 1,800 pounds.
Oh yeah. Sam's car was actually really fun.
That car's great, but I'm telling you,
yeah.
It gets so much better. Like the Elise starts to feel like a pig in some, like when you drive some of this stuff. So,
really?
I mean, to me, I'm all about like, give me like 150 or 200 horsepower in a car that weighs like, 1,500 pounds. Like that just gets me the fuck off. I love it. I love shit like that. I don't know. I power always feels like
Caterham 7, dude.
But with like a, don't they make like a crazy one?
It's a great car.
Don't they make like a Caterham like 500 or something like the?
Yeah, that's a cool. No, I feel you. Hey, if that's what you like, that's what you like.
I think that's what I think. I mean, right now, that's what's on my mind.
We're talking hypotheticals, so fuck it.
I mean, but otherwise, like, I mean, it is fun to have power, but I'm not a power guy on track. Power is just going to teach me bad habits. Power is just going to mean that I'm catching you because we got on the straightaway. I want to catch you because I fucked you up in a corner.
Yeah. I take a Senna.
Ooh, all right.
That's
oddly enough, I have no seat time ever in a Caterham 7, never even ridden in one, but I've ridden probably 300 or 400 miles in a Senna.
Yeah, Senna blows my mind, and it's my favorite tracked street car to date, easily. I think it's like absolutely the most ludicrous vehicle known to man right now.
I've never been in a production car other than a Scuderia that makes the just creaky interior crazy noises that a Senna makes. Like the Senna is so, it is like, I mean, it's raw. Like it's crazy.
Dude, I do a lot of sim racing. And so like I got my VR set up and all that. And if I got a couple beers in me on a fucking Saturday night, like I'm taking a Senna out and doing hot laps and having a hell of a time, and because it's just absolutely insane. It's insane.
It's weird though because the reviewers, like the auto journos, for what it's worth, they weren't thrilled with this car. They were like, it's not a street car and it's not a GT3 competitor. Like you couldn't like, and when I say GT3, I mean like racing series, like actual GT3.
No cars are GT3 cars on the street.
No. So I guess what is it? Like why?
It's a 720 with high downforce.
Right. It's like, why is it a hypercar though? Like, so this the Senna always confused me because
Look at it.
well, yeah, but I get what it is. But like, I mean, the P1 when it was the Holy Trinity cars, the 918, the P1, and the Loft, those cars had such new, novel, like hybrid technology. Like they were doing crazy things. Like those cars were unlike anything else that had ever been built.
It was a barrier breaker. It was a barrier breaker.
And the Senna felt like it was way behind that barrier, but it was just really good at doing what it does. And it was just like an amplification of like the old school.
Well, that's what now we're doing. We're seeing now with these new hypercars I look at, they're not building in the brake barriers. They're building in the brake barriers in different segments.
Yeah. What segment is the Senna in?
It's your millionaire Playboy track car.
Is there anything you would cross shop it with? Like
a Valkyrie?
I don't know. I think the Valkyrie, well, maybe you're right.
Valkyrie, that's like, I don't know. I don't know. I honestly know, I'm jealous you got Ryan Senna. I can't say too much. I saw a 675 LT yesterday. That was dope.
Those are great.
Yeah, that was sweet.
That's held up. That still looks good because everything else looks kind of like McLaren.
Oh, no, I know. I mean a 765.
Oh. Yeah,
I saw one yesterday.
I haven't seen one of those yet. I have not seen one of those yet.
And I don't know if you know this. I got a ride in the McLaren F1.
Tell me more.
Yeah, this is when I was young. I was a kid at the time, but a dad's buddy of mine knew the owner of the cars. He had 3 of them down in Boston.
Classic.
So yeah, the black one, the silver one, and the LM.
The orange LM.
Yeah. And so the guy was friends with the McLaren guy, and he was like, "Hey, like, you want to do a trade?" Like he's like, "Oh, you can take one of my F1s, and I'll borrow your E46 M3."
What fucking world is this? Is he the world's worst negotiator?
This is like what, 03, 04?
I mean, they weren't worth that money. Like they weren't like, I think people need to realize like, they weren't $50 million cars back then.
No. And so he's like, all right. And so I remember it was like a Thursday night, and like I still remember this. Like my dad was sitting down, and he got an email right on his computer from like, because there was texting back then really, and he's like Drew. He's like, I'm not gonna say his name, but it has a McLaren F1 like at home. Like, you want to go check it out? And I knew what it was because I played Need for Speed Hot Pursuit too.
Right, and I had like a model of one, but again, at this, so what year was this? 2000 what?
2003, 2004.
Okay, so you were like what, like 8, 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was just about 10.
Okay, so as a 10-year-old, I was a little bit older than you, but like we didn't. I mean, first of all, none of us had ever even heard one, right? I mean, like like if someone said McLaren F1, you weren't like, oh my God, that sounds incredible. You wouldn't know, because I think the first time most of us saw a McLaren F1 in action was on YouTube, like 10 years too late, watching Tiffany Dell drive one on Top Gear, Fifth Gear, whatever it was.
It's the best review of all time.
It's fucking incredible.
Other than his E60 M5 review, which is absolutely insane.
That one is batshit. He does crazy stuff because that road circuit thing that they had to play with, dude, like violent road stuff. Anyway, so you get this email. He's like, I'm going to give you this ride.
So we go over there. We went over there the night before and just looked at it. And I'll always remember this. We're looking at it, and he takes it out. My dad's checking it out.
So he started it?
Oh, he started it, all that stuff.
Did your 10-year-old brain just like fucking scramble? Because like that's a sound.
I thought it was like really cool. I was like, oh, like this is like really cool. You know what I mean? But I didn't get it really. And I remember we were playing wall ball in this guy's garage because the McLaren was outside, and the tennis ball went past me, and it started bouncing towards the McLaren, and I started running towards it, and I caught it and jumped like right next to the F1. Like next to the hood, like right around it, and barely missed it, like at full speed with my body. And the guy was like, okay, like stop doing that.
We're not doing this anymore.
And so the next day we went up, we went over there around 5:30 in the morning. And because that's the times you take a McLaren F1 out.
Yeah, it's like the dew on the grass, the slight fog.
And so I'll always remember it. My dad's a selfish bastard and takes the left side. You know? And so, like, I'm on the right side, and, we're rolling through North Andover, just, chilling, going through, just whatever. And it's like chilling. I still remember it's loud, it's angry, and I'm sitting there, I'm like low in the seat, kind of your back, right? And I'll remember specifically, we get on the highway, 495,
Oh my
and
God.
we're doing our thing, and he's kind of cruising, and he looks over at my dad and me, and he goes, "You ready?" And I was like, "All right, whatever." And second through fourth,
Shut the fuck up.
full beans,
Oh
and
my God.
I started screaming,
Oh,
telling him to slow down
yeah,
because
no.
it was so scary.
Everyone thinks they want to do shit like that. If you were 10 years old, you're like, Dad, the stranger's going to kill us.
Yeah, yeah. And so we did top of fourth in the F1, which is some ridiculous
That's
speed.
ludicrous. Yeah, that's probably really fast.
And I'm actually screaming to slow down. And my dad's reaching over the other side of the seat, grabbing me, telling me like it's okay.
It's okay. We're okay.
It's okay. And then he like did it like again, just because my dad's like,
I need to look,
because
because your dad's living a dream too. Like I think we forget that. You're like your dad is in this car going, "Oh my God, I can't believe what I'm in," and thinking, "My kid better not ruin this for me. I want to feel second through fourth again."
we went out in it for like 45 minutes. And like after that, just cruised around in it. But like, I don't know, like to the day I die, I'll be like, I got to ride in like a McLaren F1.
The induction noise behind you must have just been earth shattering.
It was insane. It was absolutely insane. And that guy too, I've had great conversations with him. He's actually driven the LM,
Okay.
and it's beautiful just to ask him like, what's it like to drive that? Because I think that's like the ultimate supercar of all time.
100%.
And like he just says, from the F1, it's a different level. But yeah, those things, it felt insane. I wish I was 10 years older though.
I have stories like not in a McLaren F1, but
Go,
I have
go.
those conversations with, or I think about that a lot because my dad, we're like a car family. Like everyone,
Yeah, oh, you guys 100%. The car, your mom, E90
we sold
sedan.
it, but
So it's gone.
it's gone. But we actually sold it to the guy who we bought it from.
Oh, that's perfect.
He fucking followed through because the day we bought it from him, he said, "If you're ever gonna sell it, call me first," and we did, and he bought it. But like I grew up with my dad and all of his friends who weren't married. They all still were hot rodders. They had like wheel standing Gremlins.
Yeah.
They had split window Vets. They had GT500 Eleanors. They had Chevelle. We had a guy. So anyway, the point of this is that growing up, I'd end up at car shows or his friends would come over with hot rods and I was upset. I'm like, I want to ride. I need to be in it. I need to feel what it does. I am hearing it and it's like a sound I've never heard. It's so outrageous, like a 427 Cobra, like crazy stuff. And I remember so my dad would always be like, "Would you take him for a ride?" And they'd always say yes. And then I can always remember the second question. So as I'm getting belted into a car, his friend would inevitably look over to my dad and say, like, what do you want me to do? Like, they're basically saying, like, can I scare the shit? Like, what like your son, your young
That's
son.
sensible. That's sensible.
Because these are adult men and they have some sense of responsibility. And my dad, without fail, every single time said, scare him.
Jesus.
And so I have had like hell rides in the monstrous cars that were like real. Like I remember going out in a 427 Cobra, and that seatbelt wasn't a seatbelt. It's like the little buckle clip thing. It wasn't tight. And he was crossing double yellows back and forth on this winding road, just lighting it up. And I was like, I remember coming back and being like, I'm not sure I like cars anymore because this is horrible. This is the scariest thing I've ever been in where I'm like, I could, and it's like, you probably felt comfortable screaming, slow down because your dad was in the car. I'm with like this stranger who I've never met in my life in this. Like,
yeah, you can't.
And I'm like, I'm frozen. Like, this is not good. And because the thing is, I'm like, because when my dad says scare him, it was like every guy he said this to would like up the ante. I can remember being in the Chevelle, and it was like
these are muscle cars too. These
terrifying because they weren't dialed in. Yeah, they like weren't dialed in. I remember the Chevelle it wasn't even a friend of ours. It was the guy who was doing the cement forms for the foundation of our addition. So I'm like, I don't know, 11, 12 years old. And we go for a ride in the Chevelle. My dad's in the car with me and I'm in the back seat. And my childhood friend is in the car with me. So I'm thinking like, oh, he's not going to do anything too crazy. And he's been building this Chevelle for years. It's got a sequential gearbox. Okay,
Yeah.
that
Insane.
should immediately tell you that bad things are about to happen. It's just got a giant tack in the center of the car with a big, like, dummy light or dinghy light. What do you call it? The shift light. It has a name. They called it something. And he takes us out, and as we're driving up the street, the front end is just floating. It's just bouncing, and we're not really doing anything yet. And I'm like, what the, like, this car feels terrifying. And we get out to like the street where I do some videos out there still. And every time I take that corner, every time I get on this straightaway and open up a car, I think about this car because he just lights it up. And through 3 gears, it was just gone. I'm like, we're doing 130 on this little tiny 2-lane back road in the woods in a car with like probably no brakes and probably like the scariest suspension I've ever experienced in my life. And that was one of those cars where, like, I'll never forget that. And I'll also never forget that when he left the house that day, he left like 300 feet of rubber in our neighborhood in front of our driveway. And my mom comes out.
And you probably live in like a suburban neighborhood.
Yeah, like a nice little neighborhood. And my mom walks out of the fucking front door and she goes, "Oh, well, that's nice. The neighbors are really gonna," because first of all, we were doing fucking construction for like a year, so we were already the annoying neighbors with backhoes and dump trucks and cement trucks. And now this guy goes and lays like 300 feet of rubber up the street. But yeah, that's the kind. Like, it wasn't unusual to just see like a giant pair of 11s in front of our house. That was kind of
That's pretty cool. Those muscle cars too, though, dude. Ugh.
Ugh,
That's pretty cool that you were. That's pretty cool that you were like around that. To be honest with you,
well, it's
like
not
the muscle car stuff, especially that you're in the European stuff now.
Yeah, well, because I have no ties to the muscle cars anymore. Like, it's insane. And the closest I've driven to a muscle car lately, Bizzarini.
Yeah, but that's a $1 million car.
I know, but it's got a small block Chevy in a 4-speed gearbox like that, and it's a muscle car. It's like driving a Corvette because it's a Corvette drivetrain.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, yeah, I know this was, we don't have like a good like logical conclusion, but this was just like a fun conversation.
No, as always, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me, Tom.
Thanks for coming on.
It's always good to talk to you.
And it's good to like have somebody who is on the other side of the instruction thing, because I think we talk to a lot of track day people, not necessarily track day instructors, and it's cool to hear. It's cool to hear like, what it's like on the other side of the car, because dude, I'm too much of a control freak. I don't know how you get into a passenger seat.
That's why I do Porsche Club too, because they're all 50, 60, and 70 and rich.
Yeah.
So they're responsible.
And the egos are slightly checked.
Yeah. When I did mass tuning, it was a little more wild, but it was fine once they understood. But at the end of the day, if you give good instruction and their minds are open, you're fine.
Yeah. I think that's the number one thing. So if you're out there and you're thinking about doing a track day, do it. Definitely do it. Just keep an open mind. Like, go in like a sponge, absorb everything, do your best to listen.
Yes, listen and absorb, because that's the best way for you to do well and learn is by that. And when I was 18 in my E46, I thought I was quick, and I wasn't.
We all thought we were. Yeah, that's a good point. Oh my God. If we all had the video game Ghost Driver in real life of our fucking 18-year-old self, we would be we'd be like devastated by how shitty we were.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah. I know. It's taken me 10 years to it's 10 years and I'm at like the peak of my driving ability. It's taken me 10 years to get there. Yeah, I'm about to go play F1 2020 after this. I'm going to do time trial, and I'm going to feel like I'm hauling ass. I'm going to be 7,000 out of like 9,000.
Dude,
it's slow as fuck.
But that's why it's a hobby.
It's a hobby. That's all it is. That's how it should be. It should be a hobby.
All
Enjoy
right.
life.
Well,
but anyways.
Thank you for coming on.
No, anytime, buddy. Thank you as well.
So what'd you think? Would you be a good instructor? I mean, let's just assume you've got the driving skills to be an instructor. I know I couldn't really do that. I have a lot of admiration and respect for those who take the passenger seat in a race car on a racetrack. It's a dangerous job, and you've got to have your wits about you, and you've got to have a lot of trust for the oftentimes stranger sitting in the driver's seat. But thank you so much for hanging out with me and my guests today. I want to thank my Patreon supporters. Your donations of $1, $3, $5, $10, $15 a month. I mean, literally every dollar contributed to that Patreon helps keep this podcast and the YouTube channel alive. And when you're listening to this, I think we'll have hit 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much. Don't forget to respect the drive. and I'll see you in the next one.